This coming from the New York Post. Major insurers plan to drop 2 car models coverage due to theft. And I bring this to you because if you have these models, you may have some trouble. You may.
You're fucked.
You're fucked. You may have trouble. Their reason is because of theft and because these cars seemingly don't offer the same kind of electronics that help prevent theft. So I would say, first and foremost, let's just talk about it, right? There's certain Kia models and Hyundai models that are going to be removed due to their lack of anti-theft common in cars today, meaning that they haven't kind of kept up with the trends. And now, and here, to be fair, we actually talked about insurance companies dropping certain areas because of flooding.
Yeah, for houses and stuff.
And here's the deal. Like, insurance companies, to me, are kind of a fraud in a lot of ways. I think that they take a lot of money in and you don't necessarily, use that money. Mm-hmm. Then when you do, they drop you because they're like, oh, you use money, now we got to drop you. But no, I think first and foremost, Kia and Hyundai need to kind of step up the game. They're both are high-selling cars, I would imagine. You see a lot of Kias around, you see a lot of Hyundai around. And Hyundai, I'm especially surprised because I feel like they've really upped their game lately. I think we talked about that.
Yeah, the Hyundais are actually getting pretty nice.
The past couple of years.
Kias, too. I've seen a couple of Kias just the other day where they're actually really nice.
Yeah, they look good.
Yeah. I don't know if they're well built, obviously, but
this is saying here that both State Farm and Progressive, which are huge companies as far as that goes, are confirmed with CNN that they no longer write policies for some Kia and Hyundai models manufactured between 2015 and 2019. So there was that 4-year gap there where they seemingly weren't doing what they were supposed to. And I will also mention that months back there was some TikTok trends about the Kia Soul, stealing Kia Souls or whatever that trend was. And I'm sure that kind of ignited this, probably because it was very easy to do so. So in September of 2022, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, or IHHS, and Highway Loss Data Institute reported that vehicle theft claims, now this is bizarre, Chris, vehicle theft claims for 2015 to 2019 Hyundai and Kia vehicles were nearly twice as common as the Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat.
that doesn't make any sense.
That makes no sense to me. Now, I'm sure you could explain it, but I'll tell you this. The Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat, the Hellcats are wild cars, bro. They're not cheap.
Oh, yeah.
They're very expensive. They're very fast. Very muscle car. How many Hellcats do you see in the streets on a daily basis? I would wager 0. They're there, but you don't see them all. They're not a common car. It's not like a fucking Honda. You know what I'm saying?
Well, then you have to kind of look at what the motives were for stealing these cars. It could be multiple things, honestly. It could be parting them out, resale parts. It could be reselling cars just because they are gas savers. And we know what the price of gas is right now. So those might be a little bit more popular.
Well, it was Honda. It always was Honda.
What?
That were the most stolen car was Honda.
For a long time, yeah. Mostly because they could be the most modified.
Modified, but also there was a lot of them on the road, and I think there was a system to easily break into them.
Yeah.
And whether that was common keys, right?
And you mentioned that earlier about the TikTok stuff. So obviously these years, somebody found a hack to get into these, and it made it a lot easier. And they couldn't do anything about it because they were already made.
Yeah. They could, though. They could do a recall, and they could fix the issue.
Yeah, but
they could. They do it all the time.
They're not going to get that many cars back to fix it.
Probably not. But at this point, if you have it in that year, like, you may have trouble going forward. But I do find it a little bit odd that when they talk about the theft ratio compared to another vehicle, that they don't compare it to a vehicle similar to the Kia and the Hyundai, because a Hellcat is a luxury car compared to those two cars.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit odd to me. And maybe they're just saying that the Hellcat, because of how popular they are, I mean, they're a beautiful car. Maybe they're saying even those cars don't have as much theft.
Well, that, and you don't see as many of them either.
That's what I'm saying.
That's another thing, too. So, of course, they wouldn't be as stolen because
There's
people
less
just
of them.
aren't going to leave their Hellcat parked around everywhere.
Exactly. So they say, quote here, that car theft spiked during the pandemic. And it says these numbers tell us that some vehicles may be targeted because they're fast or worth a lot of money, and others because they're easy to steal. So maybe they're saying that the Hellcat is obviously stolen because it's a fast car and it's worth a lot, and whereas the Hyundai and the Kia are just very easy.
Yeah.
And so obviously if a car is easy, I mean, if you leave your door unlocked, people are going to steal stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so if they're so easy that you can just break into them within the matter of 30 seconds, you're probably going to have a high theft on it.
Yeah.
But the reports noted that Hyundai and Kia vehicles being stolen lack electronic mobilizers that can hinder a thief's ability to steal a car from just breaking into the car and bypassing the ignition. Once immobilizers were added to cars, Moore said, vehicle theft in Kias and Hyundais plunged. So they had a gap where they weren't putting in certain electronical things that help kind of bypass you just hot wiring the car, basically. And here's the knock on Kia and Hyundai, and it always has been. I'm sure you can attest to this too. They're cheap.
Yeah.
And so to your point, Chris, they are getting nice. They're getting much nicer looking. They're getting a lot more like, because Kias back in the day were,
yeah,
Hyundai were, they were gross.
Both of them.
But they're making them more presentable, and they're making it to where younger generations actually like these cars. But they're also still seemingly stinging out on that important shit that is what makes new cars new cars.
Yeah.
So I don't blame the insurance companies for dropping them, honestly. I think it seems like they're not dropping the 2019 to newer, and before that, you're fine.
Yeah.
But those 4 years, if you have those cars,
which doesn't even tell me that it's just a lack of, I don't know, technology, that they were just somebody found a way, somebody found a hack, and it was easier on those years than previous or after.
Yeah, but they didn't even do that with Hondas back in the day. Like, insurance companies still, you could get your insured on your Honda.
Yeah, which that doesn't make any sense to me, because Hondas were getting stole left and right.
They were. And
nobody dropped those from insurance companies.
It could be that back then, buying a Honda would cost you like a new Honda. I'm totally making a number up, but I'm guessing you could probably buy a new Honda for like $9,000 in the 90s.
Maybe, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they were pretty inexpensive. That was before a lot of customization came in. Hondas they were always fairly popular.
Before inflation?
Yeah, but that's the thing, though, right? A new Kia or a new Hyundai is going to, that could be $20,000, $25,000. Some models, I'm sure, even more than that.
Yeah.
And so if you're spending more and it costs you more to replace it, they're going to say, hold on, man. Like, we're fine doing it. Theft happens. But I think everybody knows theft does happen on any car. But if you're not doing the stuff that you need to make it equivalent to the modern car, safety-wise, they're going to say, no way.
Well, this doesn't, whatever they're talking about, this little immobilizer thing, doesn't stop people from getting in the car.
No, it does not. So, and that's the thing, is I don't think that's the concern. I think it sucks when somebody breaks into and gets your laptop, or first of all, don't leave your laptop in the car. My goodness. But if they break in and they go rummage through your shit, you know what I'm saying? That happens, and they can cover you on that because it's not that expensive.
It is weird, though. I mean, how come they weren't stolen at this rate before 2015? Were they just not as desirable because of their looks?
Well,
because it says once the immobilizers were added to the cars, thefts went down. Yeah. So was there immobilizers before 2015? And they did away with it, and then they brought it back because they were getting stolen a lot?
That's a good question. I'm going to say that there probably wasn't on these cars.
So is it just the looks got updated and made them more desirable?
Thieves are going to thieve, you know what I'm saying?
That's true.
And so if all cars at a certain point didn't have immobilizers, you're certainly not going to go take a Hyundai. You know what I'm saying? You're going to go to a car any other car.
Well, it depends what you're doing. If you're stealing it for your personal thing, then
maybe.
Yeah, you're probably going to steal something that you really, really want. But if you're doing it as a black market business, you're going to steal what's going to be the most profitable.
Yeah, but that's I guess that's what I'm saying, is that, like, if all cars didn't have immobilizers, let's say it was previous to 2015, which I think that there were some before that. I think. Maybe they were just saying, hey, that's not the car we're going to steal because we can get into other cars just as easily. But now that more cars have these extra features that prevent people from just hot wiring the car, and they're still not doing it, thieves are going to thieve, and they're going to go to what's easiest.
Yeah.
And these happen to be the easiest at the time. And so now they have, these things, and also probably TikTok, right? People sharing that, you can easily break into these cars. Well, that gets around, and people are going to be like, okay, well, if you're going to steal a car, you're going to go for the easiest one, the one that you can get in and out of quickly.
Yeah, it says Kia and Hyundai were up as much as 300% for thefts over the last 2 years.
Yep.
That's crazy.
So video posts on social media show people how to start the vehicles without keys. But instead with the tip of a phone charger or a USB cable, and the trend has prompted juveniles across the U.S. to try and steal Kia and Hyundai vehicles and go for joyrides.
Oh, so it just became a trend.
It became a trend. So
not
basically,
even because they were actually wanting to steal it because they wanted it.
Yeah.
They're just doing it because they saw it
But the
online.
fact that you could literally start the car up with a tip of a phone charger or a USB cable, that's you being cheap, Hyundai.
That's
Kia.
Yeah.
Cheap. So, with that being said, guys, if you own these cars between 2015 and 2019, you may want to call your insurance company and just say, hey, am I going to be covered? Because if you're not, don't go to Progressive and don't go to State Farm. You're going to have to find somebody else, and you can also expect higher charges.
Yeah, and it doesn't say whether I don't think it said where like when this is going to be implemented
It already
or if it
is.
already had.
It already is. They're saying that they are no longer writing for it.
Okay.
So maybe if you're grandfathered in, that might be something. But you always want to check, right? Because the last thing is your car gets stolen, you find out like, oh, actually we quit doing that car.
Yeah, you really don't want to end up like buying a car and then find out you can't insure it.
That's the other thing, right? Because that's not that old. A lot of people are going to buy a car that's only 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing is if they find out that these are uninsurable cars.
Or at least through these companies.
Sure, but they're huge companies.
Yeah.
But if you start finding out that these are uninsurable cars, you may see a flood on the market because people are going, well, I'm going to get rid of this car then, which means there will be more available.
And then they're going to be real cheap.
And then they'll be cheap, but you won't be able to be insured on it.
Yeah.
And you need to know. So that's why we're saying it. You need to know. Insurance companies seemingly are getting sick of paying money, which is dumb, but that's
in all areas.
In all areas with homes and cars, but you have to know about it so that you know what not to buy.
Yeah.
And if it's really that big of an issue, Hyundai, Kia, you could do a recall and you could have as many cars come in as possible and then say, hey, if you get this recall done, then we will insure you. It's not hard.
Yeah.
If you don't, we won't. There it is.